Imagine holding a small piece of metal in your hand. It feels cool and solid. It might be gold, silver, or bronze. But what if I told you it was more than just metal? What if it was a tiny time machine? Coins are exactly that. They are whispers from the past, sent across centuries to tell us stories. They tell us who was in charge, what gods people prayed to, and how they bought bread in the market. Each coin is a snapshot of its time, a miniature monument to a forgotten world. In the grand story of human civilization, few places have a tale as rich, as dramatic as Iran, and its coins are the perfect storytellers. Think about it. Before coins, trade was clumsy. You might trade a sheep for some wheat, but what if the other person didn't need a sheep? Coins solved this problem. They were a universal standard of value, guaranteed by a king or an emperor. This simple idea revolutionized everything. It allowed empires to grow, armies to be paid, and vast trade networks to connect distant peoples. The history of Iran, or Persia as it was long known, is written in these small metal discs. From the mighty Achaemenid Empire to the modern Islamic Republic, coins have been there silently witnessing it all. They are our guides on this journey through time. When we look at a Persian coin, we are not just seeing money, we are seeing a political statement. The face on the coin is the face of power. The symbols surrounding it tell us about the religion of the state, the beliefs that held society together. Was it a king with a bow, a Greek god, a sacred fire altar, or beautiful calligraphy praising Allah? Each design choice was deliberate, meant to send a clear message to everyone who used it, from the wealthiest merchant to the humblest farmer. They are artifacts of propaganda, art, and economics all rolled into one. They are history you can hold. So let's begin our journey. We'll travel back more than 2.5 millennia to a time when the first great world empire was taking shape. We will follow the trail of these tiny metal messengers as they pass from the hands of Persian archers to Greek philosophers, from Zoroastrian priests to Islamic scholars, and from Mongol conquerors to modern revolutionaries. Each coin will unlock a new chapter in the epic story of Iran. Prepare to see how these small objects connect us to the grand cosmic dance of empires rising and falling, of ideas spreading across continents, and of a culture that has endured for thousands of years. Our story starts around 500 BCE. The Achaemenid Persian Empire was the world's first superpower. It stretched from the edges of India to the shores of Greece. How do you run such a massive, diverse empire? You need good roads, a strong army, and a reliable system of communication. But you also need one more thing: money. A standardized currency that everyone can trust. The Persians, under rulers like Darius the Great, masterfully solved this puzzle. They introduced two of the most famous coins in ancient history, the gold daric and the silver siglos. These weren't just coins, they were the fuel that powered an empire. The daric was the star of the show. It was a thick, beautiful coin made of nearly pure gold. On one side it showed the Persian king, a powerful, bearded figure. He is not just standing there, he is in motion, either kneeling or running, holding a bow in one hand and a spear in the other. This image was a brilliant piece of branding. It said to the world, the Persian king is a mighty warrior, always ready to defend his empire. The daric became the international currency of its day, trusted from Athens to the Indus Valley. It was used to pay for massive building projects like the grand palaces at Persepolis and to fund the vast Persian army. Alongside that gold daric was its silver companion, the siglos. 20 siglos were equal to one daric. While the daric was used for big international transactions and paying armies, the siglos was the money of everyday life within the empire. It was used for local trade, paying taxes and buying goods in the bustling bazaars of cities like Babylon and Susa. Like the daric, it featured the image of the warrior king, constantly reminding people of the power that guaranteed the coin's value. Together, the daric and siglos created a sophisticated economic system that helped hold the diverse peoples of the Persian Empire together under a single stable rule. These coins were a revolution. They were among the first to be issued by a major state on such a massive scale. Their quality and purity were so famous that the word daric itself became synonymous with gold. When Alexander the Great later conquered the Persian Empire, he found treasuries overflowing with these coins. He melted many of them down to make his own currency, but the legacy of the daric and siglos endured. They set a standard for what an imperial currency could be, a tool for trade, a symbol of power. and a work of art that projected the might of an empire to the far corners of the known world. The Achaemenid world ended in a big way. In the 300 BCE, a young leader from a place called Macedon, Alexander the Great, swept across Asia. He beat the Persian king and took over the huge empire. This was a clash of two big cultures, the Greek and the Persian, and you can see this clash perfectly on their coins. Suddenly, the picture of the Persian warrior king was gone. Instead, you started seeing the faces of Greek gods and goddesses. Coins made by Alexander and the kings who came after him, called the Seleucids, showed figures like Heracles, you might know him as Hercules, and Zeus. The words on these coins were in Greek. This was a huge change. The new rulers used coins to share their own culture and religion in the lands they had just taken over. But Persia's influence didn't just disappear. The places that used to make daric coins were now making coins with Greek designs. The same skilled workers were often used, and the good quality of the metal and the correct weight that the Persians had set up continued. It was a mix, a blend of styles. This time shows us that when cultures meet, they don't just replace each other. They mix, they borrow, and they make something completely new. The coins became a way to show this interesting talk between cultures. After about 100 years of Greek rule, a new power grew in the heart of Persia. The Parthians. They were people who moved around a lot from the northeast. They pushed out the Seleucids and started a new Iranian empire. Their coins are some of the most interesting in history because they perfectly show this change. The early Parthian kings still used Greek words on their coins. They even called themselves Philhellene, which means friend of the Greeks, to show respect for the culture they had learned from. Their pictures on the coins often looked like Greek rulers with a simple band called a diadem tied around their head, but as time went on, you can see the Persian identity coming back. The pictures of the Parthian kings started to look more clearly Iranian, with fancy hairstyles and special clothes. The Greek writing on the coins became more like a design, sometimes with mistakes, showing that it was becoming a tradition rather than a language the rulers actually spoke. On the back of the coin, instead of a Greek god, you might see a seated archer, a strong symbol of the Parthians' history as people who moved around and their great fighting skills. The Parthian coins tell a story of a people finding their roots again, making a special identity that was a mix of Greek and Persian traditions, all while ruling a big and powerful empire. As the Parthian dynasty weakened, another great Persian power was born. This was the Sasanian Empire, which rose in the 3rd century CE. The Sasanians saw themselves as the true heirs of the ancient Achaemenid Persians. They wanted to restore the glory of Iran and its native traditions. Their coins are a bold declaration of this mission. They abandoned the lingering Greek styles of the Parthians and created a new, purely Iranian artistic vision. The most common Sasanian coin was the silver drachm, a large, thin disc that became one of the most influential coins of the ancient world. It was a masterpiece of political and religious messaging. On the front of every Sasanian drachm, you see a powerful portrait of the king, the King of Kings. Each ruler had a unique and incredibly elaborate crown. Some crowns had wings, some had celestial globes, and others had crescent moons. These weren't just fancy hats, they were symbols of the king's divine right to rule, his connection to the heavens, and his royal lineage. The detail is extraordinary, showing the king's hairstyle, beard, and even the ribbons flowing from his crown. It was an image of absolute authority and majestic power, instantly recognizable across the entire empire and beyond. If the front of the coin was about the king's power, the back was about the empire's soul. It almost always featured a fire altar, the central symbol of the Zoroastrian religion. Zoroastrianism was the state religion of the Sasanian Empire, and its central idea was the cosmic struggle between good and evil, represented by light and darkness. The eternal flame on the altar symbolized truth, purity, and the divine presence of the creator god Ahura Mazda. Often, two attendants are shown guarding the fire, representing the king and the priesthood, protecting the state religion. This design sent a clear message: the king's power and the empire's faith were inseparable. The Sasanian drachm was incredibly successful. Its consistent weight and high silver purity made it a trusted currency for centuries, not just in Iran, but far beyond its borders. These coins have been found all the way from China to Scandinavia, carried along the Silk Road and other trade routes. They were so iconic that even after the Sasanian Empire fell to the Arab conquests in the 7th century, the new Islamic rulers continued to mint coins that looked almost exactly like them for many years. The Sasanian drachm stands as a testament to a proud, self-confident civilization that masterfully blended art, religion, and power onto a small piece of silver. So, the 7th century brought one of the most profound changes in Iran's history, the arrival of Islam. The Sasanian Empire fell and Persia became part of the rapidly expanding Islamic Caliphate. This transformation is, dramatically reflected in the coinage. At first, the new Arab governors were practical. They needed to keep the economy running, so they continued to produce coins that looked very familiar to the local population. They issued what we call Arabo-Sasanian coins, which were essentially copies of the Sasanian silver drachms. These coins featured the same portrait of the Sasanian king and the same fire altar on the back. But there was a subtle yet crucial difference. On the margins of these coins, a new message appeared, written in a new script. Arabic, simple religious phrases like Bismillah, meaning, "In the name of God," were added. It was a transition period, really, a bridge between two worlds. The new rulers were announcing their presence and their faith, but doing so on a familiar template. This shows a remarkable pragmatism. They understood that changing the money overnight would disrupt society, so they introduced their new identity gradually, allowing people to adapt to the new religious and political order that was taking shape across the region. Then came the Great Reform. Around the end of the 7th century, the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik ordered a complete overhaul of the coinage across the entire Islamic world. The old images, the portraits of kings and the religious symbols like the fire altar or the Christian cross were completely removed. This was a radical move. Islam's aniconic tradition, which discourages the depiction of living beings, meant that coins could no longer have pictures. Instead, they were covered from edge to edge with beautiful Arabic calligraphy. The new coins, the gold dinar and the silver dirham, became vehicles for the word of God. The inscriptions were passages from the Quran and statements of faith, such as the Shahada. There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. The coins also named the mint location and the year they were made, giving historians an incredibly precise record of the Caliphate's administration. While the style was standardized across the empire, local Persian influences remained. The numerous mints in Iranian cities developed their own distinct calligraphic styles. This new form of currency was a powerful symbol of a unified Islamic civilization, bound together not by the image of a single ruler, but by a common faith expressed through the sacred text of the Quran. Section 6. Art in Metal. The Age of Mongols, Timurids and Safavids. The unified Islamic Caliphate eventually fragmented, and Iran was ruled by a series of dynasties. Then, in the 13th century, a storm came from the east. The Mongols, led by Genghis Khan and his successors, they conquered Iran and much of Asia. This was a period of immense destruction, but it also led to a new era of cultural and artistic fusion. The Mongol rulers, known as the Ilkhans, initially issued coins with inscriptions in both Mongolian script and Arabic. Some even featured Christian symbols reflecting the diverse beliefs within the Mongol court before they eventually converted to Islam. Under the Ilkhans and their successors, the Timurids' Persian coinage reached a new artistic peak. The coins became larger and were treated as miniature canvases for some of the most sophisticated calligraphy the world had ever seen. The focus was no longer just on conveying religious text, but on turning that text into a breathtaking work of art. The names and titles of the ruler were often enclosed in intricate geometric shapes, squares, circles, and multi-lobed frames. The spaces around the central text were filled with delicate floral patterns and arabesques. These coins were not just money, they were masterpieces of Islamic design. This artistic flourishing reached its zenith under the Safavid dynasty, which came to power in the 16th century and established Shia Islam as the state religion of Iran. Safavid coins are famous for their beauty and elegance. The calligraphy is fluid and graceful, often featuring poetic couplets praising the ruler or expressing religious devotion. For the first time, inscriptions were commonly written in Persian alongside Arabic, a sign of growing national pride. The names of the 12 imams, central figures in Shia Islam, often appeared on the coins, clearly distinguishing the Safavid state from its Sunni neighbors, like the Ottoman Empire. This period was also a golden age for trade. The Safavids controlled key parts of the Silk Road, and their capital, Isfahan, became one of the world's most magnificent cities. Their beautiful silver coins, known as the, became a trusted currency for international merchants. Discoveries of Safavid coin hoards in places like Russia and Georgia show just how far this trade network extended. The coins of the Mongol, Timurid and Safavid periods show us that even in times of political upheaval, art and commerce can flourish. They're a testament to the resilience of Persian culture and its ability to absorb new influences while creating something uniquely beautiful. Section 7. A time of change. From the Abbasi to the Ottoman. The centuries following the fall of the Safavid dynasty in the early 18th century were a time of turmoil and transition for Iran. A series of short-lived dynasties, like the Afsharids and the Zands, fought for control. This political instability is mirrored in the coinage, which went through frequent changes. Rulers like the brilliant but brutal Nader Shah issued magnificent coins to celebrate their conquests, some struck from gold plundered from his invasion of India. These coins often featured grand poetic titles, but the monetary system itself was becoming chaotic. The weight and purity of coins were no longer as reliable as they once had been. When the Qajar dynasty finally established stability at the end of the 18th century, they inherited a confusing monetary system. They set about trying to reform it. This era saw a mix of different coin types and denominations circulating at the same time. From the Safavid era was still around, but new units were introduced. The most important of these were a silver coin and the A gold coin, typically worth 10 kiran. For much of the 19th century, the toman and the chiran were the backbone of the Iranian economy, though their value and silver content could fluctuate. A fascinating feature of Qajar coinage is the return of imagery. After centuries of purely calligraphic coins, the Qajars reintroduced figurative art. A popular design was the lion and sun, an ancient Iranian symbol that became the national emblem. Some coins even featured a portrait of the king, or for the first time in over 1,000 years. However, these portraits were done in a distinctively Persian style, very different from the realistic portraits on European coins. The Shah was often shown seated on a throne, looking regal and formal, a link to Iran's ancient imperial traditions. Towards the end of the 19th century, Iran began to modernize, partly in response to growing European influence. This included modernizing the minting process. The old method of hand-striking each coin with a hammer was gradually replaced by new, steam-powered machinery imported from Europe. This led to more uniform, precisely made coins. This shift from hand-struck to machine-milled coins marks the end of an ancient tradition and the beginning of modern Iranian currency. The Qajar period, with its mix of old and new traditional art and modern technology, perfectly captures a nation caught between its imperial past and the challenges of a new global era. Section 8. The Modern Age, the Rial, the Shah, and the Revolution. The 20th century ushered in the modern era for Iran, and with it a complete transformation of its money. In the 1920s, the Qajar dynasty was overthrown by Reza Shah, the founder of the Pahlavi dynasty. He was a determined modernizer who wanted to build a strong, centralized and secular nation-state modeled on the West. In 1932, his government introduced a new national currency, the old system of tomans and kirans was swept away. The rial, divided into 100 dinars, became the sole legal tender. This was more than just a name change. It was a symbol of a new beginning for the nation. The Pahlavi-era coins reflected this modernizing vision. They were machine-milled to a high standard. Early coins under Reza Shah featured the lion and sun emblem and a wreath, but soon they were replaced by his portrait. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, continued this tradition. His uniform bust appeared on coins for decades, a symbol of his authority as the Shah. The coins also celebrated Iran's pre-Islamic past. Special issues commemorated the 2,500-year anniversary of the Persian Empire. linking the modern monarchy directly back to Cyrus the Great. It was an attempt to forge a new national identity based on ancient glory and modern progress. Everything changed in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution. The monarchy was abolished and Iran was declared an Islamic Republic. This political earthquake was immediately visible on the country's coins. The Shah's portrait vanished overnight. In its place, the new government put symbols of the revolution and Islam. The lion and sun emblem was also removed, replaced by the new emblem of the Islamic Republic, a stylized rendering of the word Allah. Mosques like the famous Friday Mosque of Isfahan and other Islamic architectural landmarks became common designs on the new coins. The inscriptions also changed. The coins were no longer dated with the solar Hijri calendar alone. Sometimes the Islamic lunar calendar was used. The name of the country was officially changed to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and this title was proudly displayed on all currency. The coins became a tool for promoting the values of the new state, faith, independence and resistance. Looking at a coin from before 1979 and one from after is like seeing two different countries. The shift is stark and immediate, showing how coins can serve as a powerful public record of even the most dramatic political and social revolutions. Section 9, The Legacy in Your Hand, Collecting and Understanding Iran's Past. We have traveled through 2,500 years of history, all guided by these small metal objects. From the Achaemenid daric to the modern rial, each coin has told us a piece of Iran's epic story. This is why people collect and study them. A coin collection is not just a hoard of old money, it is a library of historical documents. Each coin is a primary source, an artifact made in the time and place it represents. It tells us about economics, art, religion, and politics. For collectors, the hunt for a rare Sasanian drachm or a beautifully calligraphed Safavid Abbasi is a way to personally connect with this incredible past. How were these time capsules made? For most of history, the process was one of brute force and artistry. A craftsman would first engrave a design in reverse onto two hard metal dies. One die was fixed in an anvil and a blank metal disc or flan was placed on top of it. The other die was held over the flan and then struck with a heavy hammer. This forceful impact would impress the design onto both sides of the coin. This hand-striking method is why ancient coins are often slightly off-center and irregular in shape. Each one is unique. It wasn't until the 19th century that machines began to produce perfectly round, uniform coins. So where can you see these amazing objects? Many of the world's great museums have spectacular collections. The British Museum in London, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France in Paris, and the American Numismatics Society in New York all hold vast treasures of Iranian coinage. The National Museum of Iran in Tehran, of course, has an unparalleled collection right in the heart of the country. Coin hoards, discovered by farmers or archaeologists, are another crucial source of knowledge. A single pot of buried coins can revolutionize our understanding of trade routes or the economy of a specific period. One famous discovery was the Malaya hoard, found in 1934, which contained thousands of Sasanian and Arabo-Sasanian drachms, helping scholars map the transition to Islamic rule. The story of Iran's coins is the story of a civilization that has stood at the crossroads of the world. It has been an empire. It has been conquered and it has risen again, each time absorbing new ideas while retaining its unique identity. These coins are the most durable storytellers of that journey. They have survived the rise and fall of dynasties, the burning of libraries, and the passage of millennia. They are a tangible link to the artisans who made them and the millions of people who used them. They are proof that even the smallest objects can contain the grandest histories waiting for us to listen.